Dr. John Connolly said, motivation has never been found on an autopsy. If you're like most people, you think you either have motivation or you don't. You're either motivated or you're not. And the problem with that I found in my life is that belief getting me to my goals? Is it getting me where I want to go? And I'm going to ask you the same question. If you're one of the people that has that belief that you're either motivated or you're not, is that belief supporting you in creating the kind of life that you want to create? Hi, I'm Karen Seltz. This is Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. Tonight, we are breaking down the mysteries of motivation. And I want to tell you a story. This happened in my late 20s, early 30s, I would say. There was this training that I really wanted to go to. I've always been big on education and learning. And there was a certification that I really thought would support me in growing my business. And I did not have the money to go. And so I didn't even know about good questions back then, but I was so motivated to get there that I started thinking outside of the box. I started asking myself things like, how can I create this? What if I could go to this training? And what I came up with was, why not ask the instructor if I could stay with him? Why not? The worst he could do is say no. Well, he said yes. He said yes. And he even picked me up from the airport and took me to the beach. It was in Virginia Beach. So it was way better than I expected. And I got to see behind the scenes. It was a certification that goes along with Brain Gym. And I was getting certified to teach what he teaches. So I got to see like how he does everything. And another hidden benefit was I was exposed to meditation really for the first time in my life. He had a daily morning meditation practice. I'm like, oh, what do you do? Tell me more. I'm so curious. And that was when I started meditating. So it ended up being like all kinds of great things. But my point was, I was so motivated to get to this training. I paid for the actual training itself and my flight, and I saved money on a hotel and an Uber. I don't know if there were Ubers back then, a taxi to the venue. And I think about, what if I was not motivated to go? I never would have contacted the instructor. That was so far out of my comfort zone to put myself out there to be rejected. So, when in your life have you been so motivated to do something that you thought creatively? You asked yourself something like, how can I? When have you done that? You'll get to write those down and you're going to use them in order to teach your subconscious mind what to look for and how to create motivation on demand. Because once you learn this, your subconscious mind will create motivation for you on demand when you command it to. Now, I didn't command anything back then in that story, but sort of I did. I'm like, how can I create this? Help me find ways. And we talk a lot about the subconscious mind on this program because it controls 95% of everything. Everything we think, feel, believe, and do is directed by the man behind the curtain or the woman behind the curtain, or in reality, the 7-year-old behind the curtain, because everything that it's running from, the filters it's seeing things through, are all developed before we hit the age of 7. Yeah, 7. So a lot of times you see world leaders acting like spoiled brats, and it's really their inner 7-year-old that's been traumatized, trying to heal that trauma or to live it out in a different way. So I just wanted to share that with you. Motivation is a sensation that's caused by the subconscious mind in response to a desire to do something. And it is actually amplified by doing the thing. So when we have an actual desire to do something, it can be scary, or it can be exciting, or it could be all kinds of things. And the subconscious mind has several jobs. One is to look for what you tell it to look for. So, any reality you wish to create, you can prime your subconscious mind. You can say, show me other people that are doing this and bring them into my field of awareness because it's filtering so much information. The other thing is it's designed to keep you safe. And safe is anything that hasn't killed you in the past. So even if it's toxic or painful, if it didn't lead to your death, it thinks, oh, that's safe. And I know that makes no sense logically, but that's how it works. So we can prime it. And one of the ways that you keep motivation going is to do the thing over and over. So I teach video. I teach people how to connect to their hearts and to show up authentically on video. If people are coming from this place of, I am so scared, I go to hit the live button or the record button, even if they're not going live, and I freeze up. I forget everything I'm going to say. I go into fight or flight or fawn or whatever, any of the responses. The only way to get through that is to do this thing. Well, there's lots of ways, but the best thing is to do it. You just got to do it. You got to jump off the cliff. You got to rip the Band-Aid off. You got to press record, go live. You got to do something. And when you do that over and over again, you will build confidence. You will also create momentum, which feeds into your motivation. So there's lots of factors that are involved in creating and sustaining motivation. If you constantly avoid doing something, the subconscious mind makes up the story that that thing must be dangerous. Why else would you avoid doing it? So that leads to more procrastination because the subconscious mind is like, that must be dangerous. Don't you dare press live because you've avoided it all of these years and we're safe because we avoided it. So it makes up that there is a danger there. And your desire to have done it must be greater than your fear. And I love this quote from my coach, Catherine Zenkina. And it is, we don't just do the things that feel good to do. We feel good. Well, let me start over. We don't just do the things that feel good to do. We do the things that feel good to have done. So when you do the thing that feels good to have done, and you do it over and over and over, you are building that muscle. And you're telling your subconscious mind, hey, I'm safe. I didn't die. Look, I got this. I didn't die. I did it. And when you can start to associate some pleasure with it, like the adrenaline, you maybe get excited and say, okay, I'm so excited instead of I'm so nervous or scared, because it's really, it's a very similar feeling. It's a similar frequency. When you can start to associate some kind of pleasure, and one of the ways you can do that is afterward, you celebrate the heck out of yourself. You're like, I did it. And you celebrate with someone else too, because there's nothing like someone cheering you on from the sidelines and someone being there for you saying, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. You rocked it. Or even you did it. I'm so proud that you did it. Doesn't matter how you do. It might be clunky. If it's not, that's a miracle. It's a miracle. So one thing that I've done when I first started speaking was to just say how I was feeling, especially if I was going live with something really super vulnerable. And I will never forget this moment. I was in a coaching program and the coach said to me, we were in like a 3-day mastermind, but it was virtual. It was during COVID. And she said, what type of women do you serve? And I said, generally, I attract really smart, analytical women that are holding themselves back from something. And she said, where are you holding yourself back? And I'm like, oh, crap. Like I knew it immediately. And at that time, I was not out of the closet spiritually. And my beliefs are not what I consider to be traditional in the United States. I am very spiritual. I am like 100% spiritual, but I don't have traditional Christian beliefs. And I was so nervous to talk about that. And I did have some childhood, I won't say trauma, but it was like shame around my spiritual beliefs, where I told my parents what I believed and they laughed at me. And then they told people and laughed about me. And it was really painful. It was really painful. And I learned that it was not okay to share my spiritual beliefs. And I held that. I was like 40 something years old. And here I was not willing to share. I was already doing a lot of things on video, but I wasn't talking about that personal part of me, like who I really am, what I really believe. So I started this video. So anyway, she said, where are you holding yourself back? So I knew it was with my spirituality. And in that very moment, I was so used to stretching. I'm like, I know exactly what I get to do. So the moment that meeting was over, I went live and you could see it on my face. I was, on the verge of tears. I was so scared. So here's how I started. I'm so scared to tell you this. I'm so afraid you're going to reject me. And I might have been crying. I'm so afraid you're going to reject me and that I'm not going to be safe. But here goes. I'm committed to showing up vulnerably and giving other people permission to do the same thing. And then I just said, I believe this, I believe that, I believe that. And that post, that video got probably 10, 15 times more engagement than anything else I had ever put out there. I had people that knew me messaging me on my phone, like texting me. I had people DMing me, people commenting, thank you so much. I felt the same thing. And so glad you said that, because I felt like I was alone and was going to be rejected. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So you never know when you are willing to be vulnerable. You never know who you're going to impact and who needed to hear it. So my invitation is to just take a deep breath. Don't pretend. Don't pretend that you're not nervous. If you're nervous, say you're nervous. If you're scared, say you're scared. People can relate to that. You don't see them on video. I mean, a lot of people, right? Most people are afraid of it. So give yourself some grace and check it off. Like, oh my gosh, I did it. I did it. I did it. And then do it again. Do it again the next day, because you get to build that muscle and you get to, repetition is one of the best ways to teach the subconscious mind that something is safe for you. And of course, to build a new habit. So if you really want to do something or be something, and it could be courageous. I want to be courageous. Well, what does courage look like to you? And what's a small step? Don't jump off a building. Take a small step. Take a small step. What's one small thing? Because that's another part of motivation, is it gets to be just the right amount of challenge for you. Because if the subconscious mind sees it as impossible, like too challenging, it's going to say that's not safe. It's not possible for you. Why bother? It's going to come up with reasons and stories for you to not do the thing. But the other thing is, if it's too easy, it's also why bother? Like, it's not challenging enough. So it gets to be just the right amount of challenging, and it gets to be possible, in order for the subconscious mind to say, okay, yeah, I can get on board with that. Does that make sense? Like, not too challenging, not challenging enough. I mean, it gets to be the right amount of challenging. Awesome. And some questions that you can ask yourself to really get down to what it is that you want to create next, and to get underneath the motivation. You get to find out what it is that you want, and make sure it's you that wants it, not what you think you should do or what somebody else wants for you. What do you want, really? And why do you want it? Why is it important to you? And is it what you actually desire? And then you could ask yourself, do I perceive this to be too challenging? Because if you do, your subconscious mind will talk you out of it. I mean, it's really hard to use that 5% of your brain to overcome the 95% right away. I mean, it's baby steps, and we get to give ourselves grace along the way. So if you do perceive it as too challenging, how can you break it up into some small bite-sized pieces that are so easy? They're so easy. You're like, of course I can do that. So, I mean, I'm trying to think of an example. But for that, let's go back to when I wanted to do that training. So I'm like, well, can I send an email? That's easy enough. I can send an email to this guy. I've never met him. I don't know him. If he says no, I just probably won't go to the training, or I'll find another way. So I sent an email. I mean, how hard is that? Sometimes it feels very hard. But when you break it down, like, okay, what's one step I could take in that direction? And then you do the thing. And remember this part, celebrate. Celebrate yourself for doing that one thing, because everything you celebrate builds. And your subconscious mind's like, oh, she's looking for things to celebrate. Let's give her more. Let's give her more things to celebrate. And then you start being in the habit of creating all these wins for yourself, which skyrockets your confidence. And I heard this other quote: you don't need confidence to be successful. You do need success to build confidence. And you build success one tiny step at a time, because the more steps you take in a certain direction, the more momentum you're going to get, and you're going to create results, which, when you create results, creates motivation. So it's like a whole cycle. One thing that's really important is, depending on your personality type. So I have the personality type, like I make these huge declarations, and then I'm like, oh crap, I don't have the analytical mind developed enough to figure out the step-by-steps. So I'm like, yeah, my next launch is going to be $1 million. Well, what was your last one? 10,000, whatever. You can't make these huge leaps like that. Your subconscious mind usually will not get on board with that. So if you are not hitting the target that you're setting for yourself, choose a closer target or a smaller step, because you want to create wins for yourself so that you can create momentum. So you can build, win, win, win. Does that make sense? Because it's really important. My coach talks about a ladder of believability. Do I believe I can generate $1 million next week? Hell no. Do I believe I can generate 10,000? Yeah, maybe. 5,000? Sure. That's more like it. So depending on where you are, in your business or your development, you get to choose something. It's like saying, oh, I'm going to lose 30 pounds next week. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? It's not healthy either. So choose something that is attainable, that creates excitement for you, and that you believe is possible. So really important, like I said, to access the version of you that is future pacing. So future pacing means, what does the version of you look like that is everything you want to be? She is who you want to be. She has what you want to have. She does what you want to do. If you can access that version of you, maybe write down from her perspective what a day is like. You don't even have to do that part, but if you're a journaler, I highly recommend it. But you get to think about every situation you come up to. When you come up to a decision, you think you want to do something, but fear might be holding you back. What would that version of you do? How would she be in the face of this? Because she's already figured it out. She's already figured out all the problems that you're experiencing, all those challenges, because she's already where you want to be. So if you think from her perspective, how did she get there? Dr. Joe Dispenza had this blog recently, and he was talking about how actors really just immerse themselves in their upcoming roles. They become that person. And he said, why don't we do that with our future selves, like with the version of us that is everything, has everything, and does everything we want to do, be, do, and have? Why don't we just immerse ourselves like an actor or an actress would and become that? Make decisions from that perspective, from that higher place, instead of from our inner 7-year-old. Easier said than done, but if you set your intention on that and you practice it, you're going to get better at it. And you're going to achieve way more than you would if you didn't. And the moment you achieve something new, you're going to be more motivated. So the key to motivation is knowing that we all have access to it. It's like confidence. We can all develop it, all of us. The other thing is to make it sustainable. It gets to be the right amount of challenging for you. It gets to be possible, not impossible, interesting, not boring, right? It can't be too easy. It also gets to be sustainable, meaning you get to figure out how to associate pleasure with the doing of the thing that might be kind of challenging, which I talked about a little bit. If you can picture, okay, how am I going to feel when I'm done with this and celebrate it? That makes it a lot more sustainable. But you can also do other things like associate it with something in the past. So when did I do something in the past that I was scared or I felt like this about, and how did it turn out? So if you go back to things that you're really proud of in your life and you think about, you kind of trace it backward, how did I get there? How did I feel? What did I do anyway? Like feel the fear and do it anyway to create the result I created. And you can associate that feeling of accomplishment that you still carry today with the being uncomfortable. So when you can associate those two, you're going to associate pleasure with the thing that's uncomfortable instead of pain, because the subconscious mind is wired to avoid pain and to seek pleasure. And it doesn't care what kind of pleasure, short-term, long-term, it just wants it, right? So that's a really good thing to do to make it sustainable long-term. And you get to create these bite-sized pieces that are so easy. They're no-brainers. You're like, of course I can do that. I can do that one thing, and celebrate it. Celebrate everything, everything. If you have any desire to show up on video authentically, to connect all your wisdom with your heart at this point. So this is the fourth chakra, the heart, and this is the sixth. They integrate right here at the voice, the throat chakra. If you have any desire to express yourself, to share your gifts with the world, please contact me, because I am starting my next cohort of Video Authority Academy very soon, and I would love for you to be in it if you feel like it's a fit. So message me. If you like this video, please subscribe, like, comment. I will respond, I promise. Thank you so much for watching Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. I'm Karen Seltz. See you next time. Mwah!